The opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the hosts and guests and do not represent the views of any Grand Lodge nor a pendant body of Freemasonry.
Welcome back once again to Masonic Shelf Shorts, the monthly dose of Masonic education in 10 minutes or less. My name is Brad Kohanke.
And my name is Chris Williams. And tonight we have a good friend and brother of mine, Brother Carlton Newberry, who is past master of Cypress Lodge in Houston. I know you're going to enjoy his presentation. Sit back, enjoy, and we'll see you next time.
What are the first steps to take when you want to visit another grand jurisdiction?
When visiting another grand jurisdiction, the first thing you want to do is research. You want to know if you're visiting another country, another state, and you want to know where a Masonic activity is happening. Of course, the first place to go is the internet, their Grand Lodge website. Find the lodges that are in the area that you're visiting and find out when they meet. If they're not having a meeting, then you could maybe contact and say, hey, I'm thinking of visiting. Are there any other areas that might not be on the website that I could attend? And sometimes they'll say, well, if you're coming, we'll be happy to have a few brothers there to welcome you. And they might open a called meeting or something, just so it goes in the minutes that you visited. After you've researched where the lodge is, the lodge number, days that they date, and it might be several on your trip, the next thing I like to do is use the Amity app. Now, the Amity app is one that's used by many, many jurisdictions, but especially in the United States, that keeps a record of which lodges your Grand Lodge is in official recognition with, so that we know that we're not trying to visit a clandestine lodge or have any communication with somebody that might be clandestine just because of the name of their lodge and it happens to be in a state where we recognize their Grand Lodge. You know, for instance, in Houston, there are dozens of Grand Lodges that have no recognition by either us or the Most Worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge of Texas. So you want to be very careful about that. And Amity is a really good way to go. Usually it's about 80 to 90% accurate. So that really helps. So you want to know where you're going, and you want to do all of this 2 to 3 weeks before you leave. So if we look at what kind of documents you need to do or what kind of preparation you need to do officially to go.
What actions do you take to ensure proper protocol is followed?
So to ensure you're following proper Masonic protocol, the next thing you're going to want to do is reach out to the Grand Secretary's office. Call the Grand Secretary's office, make sure you have your ID number with you, and speak to them. They'll probably put you through to Brother Jeffrey Frazier out of Hillcrest Lodge in Dallas. He helps facilitate a lot of our interjurisdictional communication. And what he will do is tell you, you need to tell him where you want to go. You need to tell him when you want to go. He will issue you a traveling certificate that he can get you in the mail. And that's why we want to do this at least a couple of weeks beforehand. But also, they will send an official introduction to that Grand Lodge secretary from our Grand Lodge secretary that says you are a Mason and this is where you wanted to go, so that that Grand Secretary can then forward on your credentials to the secretaries of the lodges that you wish to visit. This is very important. In some states, it's a little more lax than others, their observance of this protocol, because if you show up with a dues card and they can scan your code in Grandview, they're perfectly fine with letting you in. But there are other states in the United States where they say, no, if we don't already have your information from our Grand Secretary's office, you're welcome to eat with us, but you cannot come in during a tiled meeting. That's why I always like to make sure that everybody knows, do it all every time, and you'll never be disappointed or surprised. And that way we're also putting out to the world that Texas Masons follow proper Masonic protocol as far as our fraternal relations go in interjurisdictional situations.
What do you do when you arrive at the lodge you are visiting?
Now, when you arrive at the lodge you're visiting, of course, you want to make sure you have your dues card, your picture ID, your traveling documents with you. And it's always wise, if you can, to email or call the secretary of that lodge within 3 days before you arrive, just to make sure that they are certainly aware that you're coming and that they check to make sure that they've received things from the Grand Secretary. Because if they haven't seen it, and we've all had this happen, it doesn't show up where it's supposed to, or they send it to the old secretary's address because they changed last year. And so he can reach out to the Grand Secretary's office, and they'll say, oh, yes, we have that. We accidentally sent it to Brother Roderick, who was your old secretary. Here it is. And that way everything is official and good to go. Again, 2 to 3 days before you visit the lodge. And when you show up, you have your dues card, you have your picture ID, and you want to be prepared to give the Tyler's oath if it's asked for. And in some jurisdictions, they ask for the passwords of the degree to everyone before the meeting starts. Some places only do it for the visitors. Some do it for all. In fact, I can't remember if it was the Grand Lodge of New Jersey or the Grand Lodge of Maryland, but it was my first visit there. And I happened to be sitting as close on the sidelines to the junior deacon as I could. And as they got ready to call the meeting to order, all of a sudden he picks up his staff and walks over and points it at me and leans in. And I was scared to death. I was like, are they about to throw me out? And it's like, no, that's what they do to everyone in the room. The senior and junior deacons do, asking for the passwords before the meeting can start. And it just turned out that I was just closest to him, and that's why he came to me first. I thought it because I was a traveler or something. But you want to make sure that you're prepared with your passwords, your Tyler's oath, and your documents, so that before the meetings start, everyone can be comfortable with the fact that you truly belong there and that you were taking the steps to protect their charter just as you would protect the charter in your own lodge. So before the meeting starts, once you've been certified as being a Mason and allowed to come in, you've been properly vetted. If you're bringing a gift to present the Grand Master or anyone in the lodge, whether it's your lodge pin, our Grand Master's pin or coin, or any item, you might want to ask what the protocol is for that from either the senior deacon, or if you happen to have hit it off with one of the brothers at dinner, perhaps they could help you with that. Because you don't want to be out of turn asking the asking the master of the lodge if you can meet them at the altar if they have a different protocol for that, or at a different time in the meeting when we usually would do it. Also, you want to ask them, especially when you travel internationally. So I'm a grand representative to the Grand Lodge of California Baja South in Mexico, which is a Scottish Rite jurisdiction. And of course, in that country, everything is in Spanish. Now, my Spanish is very passable. However, I haven't been taught the script of how you enter a lodge room there and the way that they do it. And it might look a little foreign to you. In some of these jurisdictions, the pillars aren't where they are in our lodge rooms. Other things, the what we call the junior and senior wardens, their stations aren't where they are in our lodge rooms. So it's good to make a connection with somebody there, maybe look in the lodge room before you go in and get comfortable with the layout and what's expected of you if you're recognized by the master when you're announced as a visitor, so that you can greet everyone properly. If you're expected to greet the worshipful master and then give him some kind of sign or salute, the wardens the same, or the brethren, you just want to be prepared for that and show that you're being a good guest. So, in closing, just from my own experience and from experience that I've heard from other brothers that travel extensively, it has enriched my Masonic journey so much to see the differences, but still the similarities between so many of these grand jurisdictions and the way that their meetings and business operates. And I have made friends around the world that are Masons that I can reach out to thanks to the World Wide Web. We're friends on Facebook, we're friends on Instagram, we have WhatsApp, and we text and talk all the time. And it's made me a happier man when I travel, knowing that at my next destination, I might be able to reconnect with a friend that I've already made, or I get excited that I might go make some new friends in a new jurisdiction. And just recently, because of my travels in Mexico, I had a brother reach out from the Grand Lodge of Veracruz that is traveling to Texas and even though he's going to Dallas, he said, do you know anybody up there that speaks Spanish that I could hang out with? And I was able to connect him with several brothers the worshipful master at Jewel P. Lightfoot Lodge, who was very happy to embrace him and agree to meet with him and show him around town and introduce him to more brothers. And so we're not only in this to make our journey better, but it allows us to make the journeys of so many other brothers better when they travel to Texas.